We have water to live and to sustain ourselves. But imagine if one day we were walking on a hike maybe and looking at the river, and all of a sudden it just turns into blood, like a bright red color. And in today's story, we will learn why God did that. Moses was sent to talk to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, as we know, is like the president of the United States or some country. And Moses was sent there by God. That was his calling to tell Pharaoh, let the people of Israel go and worship God in the desert. Let them sacrifice and bring offerings to God and worship him there. And Pharaoh didn't want to agree. That's his slave work. That's all of his labor. It would just disappear to the desert. Even 3 days, that's a lot of time. They have to make sure everything is finished before the season ends, whenever that was during that time. But he's not just going to give up all of his workers. And he didn't want to let Moses go. He was firm. He was stuck on, no, I'm not letting you go. Get out of my sight. Well, for that, God decided to show Pharaoh who's boss, basically. And another better word for that is his sovereignty. Sovereignty is like his power. He is more powerful. Someone who has sovereignty is like we said, the president. Pharaoh does have sovereignty. He has power over his country. But God is more powerful than that. And one thing that God tells Moses to do is grab your staff, the stick that he uses to walk and get around with, and throw it in front of Pharaoh, and it will turn into a snake. But Pharaoh wasn't very surprised because his magicians can do basically the same thing. So he called in his sorcerers and his magicians. He sent for them, and he told them, well, make your staffs into snakes. And they put down their staffs, and they also became snakes. Now what? Well, God can do it, so can Pharaoh and his magicians. What's the big deal? Well, here's the catch. You see, God's snake went and ate up all of these other snakes. And the very first example God showed was that he is more powerful than these sorcerers. And Moses leaves, and he tells God, God, you saw what happened. They can do it too. And God says to him, well, in that case, we're going to strike the next thing, and that's their water source. Their river was called the Nile. The Nile was actually one of their gods. They worshipped it. This river that provides for them, it's their god. It takes care of them. It feeds them, waters them, gives them life, and they worship it. Well, God was going to trample on one of their gods. He was going to show them that as powerful as you think your river is, guess what? I made that river, and I can also make it into something useless for you and do harm to you, which was blood. And so Aaron went and raised his hands over the river, and it turned into blood. Well, again, Pharaoh says, my magicians can do the same. And so he called his magicians, and they turned some water into blood as well. And he would not let the people go. Well, in that case, God just went through all of their other gods that they worshipped. And so that's why we see some of these plagues. It's kind of weird. Why would God send a bunch of frogs next? Or gnats, which are little insects and bugs, and then these locusts, which would eat all their crops. It killed off all their food. All their livestock died. But one key difference is that all of Egypt here was suffering, while God's people, the plagues wouldn't touch them. It went only in the Egyptians, and which was another sign of God's power over the land and telling specific things to go to specific places. Because if everybody was affected, then they could just blame it on a coincidence. Pharaoh can say, so what? It just so happened that when you said it, a wind came and all these gnats came all over the land. Well, we can stop you there, because how come it didn't touch this land, but it did touch you? So, overall, the big idea is this. God is more powerful than anything ever created because He is the one who created it.